is working. You can hear me okay? All right. We are going to go ahead and start our meeting on time and try to accommodate as many of the questions that you guys have filled out as possible. Before we start, we'd like to start with a word of prayer and then a pledge of allegiance, and then we'll get started on business. So, Dave, why don't you come forward and offer that prayer?
Heavenly Father, we're thankful for this evening that we can gather together here as constituents of General Peterson, and that we'll be able to pose questions and receive answers, and that we'll do so in a civil and meeting manner. These things we say in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. And Dr. Jesus is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now we have some handouts here that it looks like not many of you grabbed, but did you ever grab one of these, a bill list? Anyone missing one, needing one? Okay, we got it. Okay, most of you guys got it. So just real quick, I wanted to go over with you what I'm working on so you guys know what I'm doing. So you probably heard about the Solar Tax Credit phase out. If you've heard about that bill, raise your hand. Okay, that's been in the news a lot. So the genesis of this bill came about 2 years ago. I was in a hotel room in Seattle for a legislative conference and digging around through some of our tax credits, learning a little bit more about what we were doing as a state with those. It happens to be that every dime of our income tax pays for our education. And we have a constitutional, our public education is a constitutional thing, right? And our Constitution obligates us to provide a free public education to Utah children. And so the policy was made a long time ago that the income tax would be the means in which we funded that. One of the things that legislators have done, though, is recognize that income tax is a good way to incentivize people to do certain things, whatever that policy is or whatever you want them to do. So over time, legislators have said, well, if we give someone a credit for this or a credit for that, we can induce them or incentivize them to behave in a certain way. So in 2002, we drafted a policy that says we'll give you $2,000 off your tax obligation. So if you owe $5,000 in taxes to the state, if you bought a solar rooftop system, you'd only owe $3,000, right? So you get a $2,000 credit. Well, when that was implemented, not many people were purchasing rooftop systems. In fact, the impact to the budget was less than $250,000 for years. Then something changed in 2012, and that number ran from below $1 million to today it's over $16 million, just in a very short period of time. And the industry has been doubling and tripling in its volume of business over the last several years. So it's on this geometric growth path, and every system that is purchased puts a $2,000 ding into our education funds. And so I began to look into this issue to say, okay, what can we do to stop this bleeding in the education budget? And at the same time, what can we do to make sure the industry can operate under its own strength? And so over the course of the last year, I've been in negotiations with the industry, trying to figure out a way to accomplish both of those tasks. And so HB 23, what we have now, and which passed the floor of the House this week, is a phase out of the credit. So the credit right now is $2,000. It'll stay that way for the rest of the year. Next year it will drop to $1,600. The year after that it'll drop to $1,200, $800, $400, and then in 5 years it will be phased out to zero. The industry did not really resist the bill because they recognize that the cost of the technology is decreasing at about that rate. So for the consumer, they really shouldn't see a price difference in making that decision, because the cost of the systems will be dropping along with the tax credit. So it should be a wash for consumers, and we'll be able to heal the budget and keep some money in our education funds. So that's HB 23. HB 24 is the Student Prosperity Savings Account Plan. So this bill deals with our intergenerational poverty youth. So we have a savings account that you can donate to. It's kind of a state-run program. You donate money to this account, you get a small tax credit for donating that money for the purpose of higher education savings for a student. Usually this is somebody that you know, right? Like your own kid or maybe a grandchild, somebody that you're familiar with. You can donate the money in their name, and then that money's there when they go to college. During the committee meeting where we heard this issue, it dawned on me that kids in my neighborhood probably don't have much opportunity to benefit from this kind of a program. And the reason being is that they don't know anybody that has extra resources, right? I mean, the demographic pool is very limited. And so the question I have is, how do we get resources to these kids without just shoveling taxpayer money at them? And so we came up with this program that creates a tax credit, basically like a charitable contribution deduction for folks who do donate to this special program. And the program will be, because we recognize that a lot of individuals won't know a particular or specific student, that the United Way of Northern Utah and other community partners will be involved in identifying which of those kids should receive the money and work with them towards their higher education. And the bill is specifically targeted, because we want results within the next 3 years, it's targeted at high school kids that are in intergenerational poverty. So that's what this bill is. It passed the House unanimously a couple days ago and is on its way to the Senate. So I don't anticipate too many problems with that. So property tax relief amendments. That sounds like a great title, right? This one is just a very simple clarification. So if you're a widow and you qualify for a widow or widower that qualifies for property tax relief, it doesn't matter what your age is. You can still qualify. There's some lack of clarity on whether it would be just for seniors or for anyone, and we determined it should be available to anyone that's a widow or widower. HB 73, child placement amendments. This just passed committee this morning. I ran it last year, passed the House, got on the Senate board, and died 4 down on the Senate board at midnight, the last day of the session. So we brought this bill back and got it to committee today, so I'm anticipating we'll have no problem getting it through. Fingers crossed. But this bill says that the Department of Child and Family Services must conduct a felony arrest warrant check on parents who the state is attempting to reunite their children with. We would think that this would be a fairly common sense thing to do, and that would be happening already. It's not. So, so this bill directs DCFS to do the felony arrest warrant check, and then provide that information to the courts. So it doesn't require anything other than that. So the judge who's involved in the case can then adjudicate based on all the information available and just have that information at his disposal, because it may be that we put the kids in the home and then the parents are quickly arrested and the kids come back into the system, and that back and forth is very traumatic and disruptive to them. So that's this bill, and we should have no problem with that. HB 158, State House Boundary Amendments. That was a wonky technical fix of a boundary up in Box Elder County. 20 years ago, Box Elder County and Cache County changed their boundaries by a few dozen feet. Didn't tell anybody, meaning at the state level, never recorded it. So when we redrew district boundaries, there were some house boundaries in Cache Valley that were going into Box Elder County. So we fixed that with this technical technical thing. There's actually no houses or currently no voters in that zone. So we were doing that before things got confusing. Inmate housing amendments, HB 270. This may be a multi-year bill. This is something we've been wanting to do in Ogden for a long time. So Ogden City has half, or 50%, of all the halfway house beds in the state. All right, how many of you knew that? Okay, a few of you did. That facility was built in 1996, and on a per capita basis, that's a pretty heavy burden for our community to bear. So felons come out of Draper Prison, they're put into what we call the NUC, Northern Utah Criminal and Correction Center facility. Then they go and look for a job and look for housing, and so it's kind of like a spigot coming out of Draper Prison into our community. That comes with a host of costs and issues that we have to deal with as a community. So what the bill does, it says, look, we recognize that it's better to have smaller halfway houses than it is to have these big monolithic warehouses. When you have large amounts of inmates together, you have a sense of anonymity. Recidivism rates are high, where they go and reoffend and go back into the system. You know, we want to help correct their behavior. Hence, the corrections department. Sometimes that seems like a misnomer, the way they treat folks. But we want them to be successful. But in large bunches, it's kind of like crabs in the bucket, and people pulling each other down. And so the concept is to create a per capita limit on the number of beds that will be available in any county. So Weber County would probably get about 35 beds based on our population, where we have 156 now. Cache County would probably get 10 beds. So that's the concept. It seems to have support amongst those in the House. It's going to committee on Friday. It comes with a $10 million price tag. So that's going to be the rub, because we'd have to build some new facilities, because there are no halfway houses in Davis County, Utah County, Wasatch, Box Elder. We just have them in Ogden and West Valley City. Those are the two places. So, Energy and Innovation Research Grant Program. So, we've been working a lot with the Governor's Office of Energy Development on the rooftop solar tax credit issue. They brought this issue to me, saying that they have some technologies that they're aware of in the state that they want to create a competitive grant program for. So you've got new technology, new companies that are creating these innovative energy solutions. They want to incentivize these to get them to develop and deploy out into the marketplace. For an example, one is battery technology. Right? Solar technology works really well if you've got a battery at your house to store the electricity. But right now, the battery tech is just not there yet, but it's coming along. We've got some promising prospects on some companies that are developing some things like that will help further that technological advance and help that. So this comes with $1 million price tag. We are woefully limited on budget this year, so this will be sifted. If it passes, it's scheduled to go to committee on Friday. If it passes, then it'll have to go through what we call a sifting process, where we have the ideas that we like, and then we have to figure out how are we going to pay for it, and do we want to pay for it, and prioritize those items. So that's that bill. House Bill 318, Recycling Market Development Amendments. Okay, so this is more of my tax credit work. We have a thing called Recycling Market Development Zones. That sounds, you say that 10 times fast, right? It's basically you draw a box on a map. Any business inside the box can qualify for a tax credit if they purchase equipment that helps them recycle within their industry. So initial thoughts are, oh, this is all the recycling, like Bloom's or other recycling businesses. Well, it turns out it's actually a whole host of companies. So what we're trying to do, again, is get a tax credit off the books so we can free up funds for education. This would be about an $875,000 boost to that side of the ledger. In discussing things with industry, it turns out that there's a lot of manufacturers like Nucor Steel and some medical equipment manufacturers in Salt Lake that have all approached me and said, hey, look, we use this tax credit for a part of our business. And so rather than eliminating the credit entirely, we're going to move it over to be a sales tax exemption, because we're already giving them a credit for something they're buying, but it's coming out of the education budget. So if we do it as a sales tax exemption, it won't affect education. It just comes out of that side of the account. So that's what that bill is. Kind of wonky. I can see your eyes glazing over at this moment. So we'll move on to the next bill. Okay, community reinvestment amendments. This is another wonky thing, but it has to deal with the way that communities notice for redevelopment that they're doing in their community, rather than a blanket notice for areas that may not be affected by the redevelopment. We're trying to narrow it down so we can say, this is the area that will be affected, and therefore those people need to be noticed, rather than creating undue alarm in places that aren't necessarily affected by that. So, a couple co-sponsored bills. Patrice Aaron's wildly named concurrent resolution encouraging Utahns to consider the smog rating when purchasing a vehicle. Couldn't have chosen a better title. So that passed the House today unanimously. And Laurie Snow's concurrent resolution on the 50 years of public television co-sponsored that. And there's also Mike Winder's, oh, here it is in the back. So Mike Winder has an incentive for affected teachers in high poverty schools. This bill would be a, excuse me, would be a $5,000 income boost to teachers in Title I schools. And that passed the Education Committee by 1 vote today. So those are my bills. I guess while I have you guys captivated in my bills, any questions about the bills? In the very back.
Sorry, the HB 73 child placement amendment,
Yes.
does the child felony arrest warrants prevent the child from being returned to its parents, or is it just to help the judge be aware of everything that's going on?
It's to help the judge be aware of everything that's going on. He could adjudicate that way. He could say, look, that's not a safe place or not in the best interest of the child. But the judge would determine that. So we didn't want to mandate that because there were too many different scenarios that could be involved there. Okay, was there a question over here? Karen?
Regarding the solar rooftop credit.
Yes.
Okay. I don't even want to go into the clean air issues at the moment.
Thank you.
The economic development aspects of the bill. In fact, I was a member of the committee at Beaver State that worked on the community solar project last year, and then we helped facilitate over 300 homes receiving solar. And the vast majority of the folks that we worked with said that if the credit wasn't available, it would not be affordable for them to do that. And even though, yes, the costs are starting to come down, they're not going to come down that much in the next 4 years. However, Utah led the nation in 2016 in the creation of solar industry jobs. Did you know that? 65%. It was 25% nationwide, 65% Utah, 1,200 jobs created just last year in the industry. It's one of the fastest growing job fields in the nation. Now, in fact, the fiscal note attached to this is $20 million, not 50, 60 million, I think you said, and estimated for 2016.
It's less now.
It's less now, okay. So it's less than $20 million, but the estimated return on investment, this comes from the Governor's Office of Energy Development, is $313 million that consumers will spend. Okay, that's a return of investment, a whopping return on investment that you can't get from anything else. Therefore, my question really is, who benefits? And you can say it came from the education budget, but did not come directly from the education budget initially, you know that, right? Who benefits from eliminating this credit other than Rocky Mountain Power?
Zing. So the you've got a lot to chew on there. So to elaborate on the concept of it's not directly coming from the education budget. So at the state, just so everyone's clear, at the state, when we show up to appropriate money, imagine a big bucket of change dumped on the table. And then we show up to the table and look at each other and haggle over where the money's going to go, right? It's going to go here, it's going to go there, I like this, I like that. We vote on it, and then whoever has the most votes in the end wins, and that's where the money goes. The tax credit is money that never shows up at the table to argue about because it's operating in the background. It's money that should have been put in the bucket on the table, but is not. And so, with this policy, we will see an income stream to the education budget increase because that money will be diverted to the table rather than diverted out directly to the consumer.
You guarantee that's going to go directly to the education budget?
I can guarantee that, well, yes, it will go to the table where the education budget is and be argued over
With everything
there.
else.
That's
not
correct.
just for the education.
Yeah, so
That's
the
a misnomer.
income tax is earmarked for, it comes into the education bucket, right? And so that's the bucket that it comes into. I can't guarantee anything in the state budget, right? I'm just one vote, and we haggle. So the next question, RMP. Does RMP benefit from this? I don't know. The Public Service Commission has a net metering decision coming down the pike in August, probably, right? Now, interestingly, I voted and put an amendment in HB 11 which kept the PSC bipartisan. Thank you. You're welcome. That they were going to make that strictly an appointment made by the governor with no partisan consideration. So I put an amendment in. I think we heard this last week. And that amendment, the Senate attempted to pull the amendment out, and that failed. And so I believe it is going to pass through without, with a bipartisan PSC or Public Service Commission board. The Public Service Commission, for those of you who are unaware, makes decisions on rate increases for Rocky Mountain Power, regulatory decisions such as net metering, which is what you need if you're going to have a solar panel on your roof, unless you have a really awesome battery package in your garage, right, where you can be standalone. But until that technology arrives, net metering matters. So the question is, in my mind, is does this decision affect the decision PSC is going to make down the road? Or do we let what PSC might make as a decision dictate what we do here?
Only applies, I don't know if this is true or not, but it's only for, so what it says, it's incentives for teachers in high poverty schools. So my question is, what I've read is it's only for high school teachers. I teach 6th grade, so that's still elementary. And we are in a high poverty school. And is it merit pay based? So is it just high school? And is it a merit-based system?
I'm actually, I don't have answers to your questions
I
on
knew it
specifics.
was a co-sponsor, I wondered.
Yeah,
Sorry.
he briefed me on the bill and said this is what it does, and I said that sounds like a great idea, and so I co-signed. Yeah, so Mike Winder is who you need to call. And the proposal, because of the vote that came out of committee, it may change, because he may want to try to get more support. Yeah, so it's a moving target, but yeah, sorry I can't answer your question in detail.
This is kind of related to her question, but this House Bill 23, I was just curious, maybe you can educate me as far as how the tax from or the credits from the state school funds lands are derived. There's leasing companies on these lands that I'm assuming pay the state, whether it's extraction fees or lease fees. Have you looked at that as a source of cutting or increasing those fees to derive funds rather than the solar industry? Because it seems to me like they're disproportionately much cheaper than the solar industry, and they get, I know the coal is charged way less than what the market will bear. So, you understand my question?
Parts of it.
Okay.
So let me handle the SITLA aspect. So there's 3 mechanisms for funding education. There's your income tax, there's your property tax, and then there's what we call SITLA lands or school investment trust lands. If you looked at a grid of the state of Utah, and when it was broken up into townships, random blocks were dedicated at the founding of the state to be land used to fund public education. So the state owns the land, it leases the land, there's mineral extraction that can occur on the land, there's commercial development, they rent the land out, they'll put a farm on it, they'll do whatever they can to maximize the return that the state gets on the land. So when I first came into the House, that method of raising funds for the schools was poorly managed. And there was an initiative right as I came into the House to change that. And so we've seen that resource grow in a tremendous way because there's been a direct application or a direct effort to improve the revenues generated from that resource. So that's going to continue to grow. In fact, the way that it's done now is it's almost like an endowment where they take money and they put it back in and reinvest it, and so it spins off more interest, and return that they put into the investment. So anyway, it's well managed now, and it'll continue to grow. So I'll answer that first half of your question. I've got another question over here. If that's or did you have another?
I guess what I'm saying is it seems like there's a lot more money to be gained from eliminating tax subsidies and revenue and credits from these extraction industries as opposed to the solar industry.
So just to be clear, there's no income tax credits for gas or oil or any other industry. There might be some sales tax exemptions for equipment that they purchase, but we do that for a lot of manufacturers. At the national level, that's a different story, right? At the national level, but at the state level, we really don't have a big, other than maybe like direct appropriations where you saw we appropriated money to try to build a port in Oakland, and that's sort of like caught up in litigation now. But other than like a systemic incentive like a credit or an exemption, it's not really there. So let me go to the next question over here.
Dealing with the net metering program for solar, right now every watt of overproduction is sold, I guess, or held by Utah Power, and then you can receive up to 1 watt of power back when you need it. I think you mentioned in August they're considering a change in that. Is it true that one of the changes in that is that you overproduction of 3 watts, they will return only 1 watt back to you when you need it? And if that is the case, I think people wanting to get solar will go way down. So you're seeing it steadily increase, but if you're getting only 1 watt back for every 3 watts that you overproduce, I think that'll put a damper on it.
Well, yeah, the economics are what's driving solar, right? If it's affordable, people will buy it. If it's not, they won't. I don't think we want to have what happened in Nevada happen here, right? So in Nevada, they came in and they basically had an egregious net metering arrangement that put the kibosh on new installs for solar panels. Then there was an uproar, and the governor got involved, and so that's scrambled eggs that they're trying to unscramble right now. I don't think Governor Herbert's interested in that. I won't speak for him, but just knowing his temperament, I don't think he wants to see that happen. I think the people he appointed to the PSC know that he doesn't.
Is that one of the things being considered?
But I don't know the specifics on the PSC decision because it hasn't been made yet. And there's a lot of things that they have to go through. It's a 400-page proposal that I haven't read. But I do know that they have to go through and say, is this legitimate? Like Rocky Mountain Power may make a claim, but it may or may not be legitimate, right? And so they have to confirm everything and then make their own judgment based on that. They're basically like a panel of judges, right? So they'll adjudicate based on what they determine to be reasonable. Question over here.
Totally in favor of your bill to eliminate the $2,000 Utah solar credit. $2,000. Solar panels are going on a house for $20,000 to $30,000. A $2,000 credit's only less than 10%. It's not going to change a person's decision to install solar or not, and that money definitely has got to go toward education.
Well, and the fear with the credit was that geometric pace, I mean, if left unchecked, could just continue to grow. And we don't have any other tax credits that are like that are moving in that direction. And a lot of it just has to do with the technological advancement. John?
Recognizing that could grow quite a bit, I think you have to balance that with the growth of the industry, the growth of it's primarily a labor-intensive industry, so there would be a lot of people that would be employed. Employment would compensate for some of that increase in the number of people installing.